That's right, it's my birthday. I just turned 20, so I'm gonna do what every 20-year-old does. Talk about a children's movie that came out literally 2 weeks ago. But I have to say, I am shocked that a lot of critics actually hate this movie. I did not think this movie was gonna be good by any means, but the critics just ripped this movie a new one. I mean, they went in, I swear they must have expected something like a Pixar movie. I mean, I don't know what to say. This movie was perfectly fine. In fact, as a semi Mario fan, I liked it just fine. It's not perfect by any means. In fact, it's actually just a good movie. I wouldn't consider it great. I'm not gonna, get down on my hands and knees and start praising it. But I will say it is a lot better than what some have been saying about it. It's definitely not as bad. I know months ago I made a video way back. I don't know. I don't even remember. Probably way back in November. Basically discussing my overall thoughts on the movie because it hasn't been released yet, and I can't remember exactly what I said in that video, but I can say without a shadow of a doubt that this movie was not as bad as how I thought it was going to be. I know what my overall thoughts were on the movie and the video, but honestly, I was literally suppressing my disappointment with the movie because I knew it was just going to be mostly visuals, but it was just going to be a Super Mario movie with great visuals made by Illumination, and it's going to be just as good as you would think. But yeah, I'm honestly shocked. But with that said, let's get the negatives out of the way first. So my main negative with this movie is the fact that Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong took me out of the movie. I mean, good for Seth Rogen. I mean, he was in The Fablemans. He's in more upcoming movies that look okay, but I don't know what it was about his Donkey Kong, but I don't know. It took me out of the movie a couple of times. Everyone else was fine. I mean, Keegan Michael Key was fine. Chris Pratt surprisingly was okay. Jack Black obviously stole the show. Um, I know I said negatives, so let me move to my biggest negative. It moves at a very fast pace. Um, there's very little breathing time, and they just move from one place to the next. And there's no time to even like have an emotional scene. There is only one particular sequence that even shows a semblance of emotion, and it's over like that. I mean, and it's literally just baby Luigi and Mario. Um, and it's fine, but they could have done like a Pixar level emotion quality to it, but they didn't do much. I mean, that's the closest you're gonna get to a tearjerker in this movie. But this movie moves way too fast for my liking. I would have preferred if it was like the length of, geez, I don't know, maybe exactly 90 minutes. This movie was under 90 minutes. Excluding credits, this movie was literally 80 minutes. It was the shortest movie I felt like just it was amazing how fast it went by. I mean, there's just nothing really for me to even feel like I was bored. There was nothing boring about it. Everything was entertaining, and that's fine. But yeah, those are my big negatives. There are a couple of lines I didn't really like. Um, Cranky Kong, let's just get that. I'm gonna get that out of the way. I hated Cranky Kong. It's voiced by that um, Fred Armisen, I believe his name is. I don't really have IMDb pulled up. I'm also on like got a couple hours sleep because I'm working on freaking anatomy homework, so bear with me. But Fred Armisen was probably the worst character. He had the most unbearable voice I had to sit through. But that was fine. I I could sit through it, I could just forget about it, and that's what I did. I literally just sat through it and took it up the tailpipe. I knew the character wasn't going to be good, but it was way worse than I thought, so that's another big negative. The other thing that not really bothered me, but there was a lot going on in this movie. It really felt like they tried to shove every single Mario reference that they could think of and crammed it all into this 80-minute movie. Again, this movie really would have benefited from a longer runtime, but I am overall happy with what they did with it. I mean, they got a lot in without it feeling too overstuffed, but there was quite a lot to the point where I could barely keep up with most of the references. I mean, there was just so much. There was too much to even count. Um, Otherwise, most of this movie was just okay to begin with. I mean, it is very clearly aimed for children. Um, and adults can enjoy this. I know quite a few parents or people that grew up with the games like me, they can enjoy this movie. There's even quite a bit of like 80s music and references in this movie, which is fine. It took me out of the movie. I could care less. They're good songs, but they shouldn't have been added to the movie. But that didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. So there's that. But let's just move away from the negatives and focus on the positives. Obviously, the big praise I have to give is to the animators. They clearly worked their asses off with this movie, and it shows. The animation is stunning. Um, Again, I don't want to like praise this movie too much because I don't want to seem like those people that, praise a certain movie that has already been on the hype train for too long. Because this movie was pretty good. I mean, it was shocking how decent it was. But yeah. Um, Again, the cast, for the most part, did everything what they should with the material they were given. It was pretty good. Also, Bowser singing the Peaches song, I know that's going to go viral, and that's silly. I'm not a big fan. It's not my cup of tea. I didn't really like the song as much, but I could see why a lot of people would. It is a silly, goofy, suboptimal song. But, that's what you're expecting from an Illumination movie. You're not expecting Pixar level quality, but considering the downward slope that Disney's going into, I would say, it's about on par with Disney nowadays. In fact, I'm just going to say it. This movie is just a giant middle finger to every single Disney movie I've seen and just blows it totally out of the water. This was 10 times better than Lightyear that came out last year. That was the most underwhelming movie I've seen, especially coming from Disney. I had high hopes for that movie, but but Super Mario Brothers, that just blows it out of the water. And it also just makes me absolutely happy knowing that this movie is close to $1 billion in just the 2 weeks it's been released. But in just the one, it already made $500 million at the box office, and that is way so much better than Ant-Man Quantumania did. So knowing that this movie is probably going to be the new superhero films and Disney's going to fade into obscurity, that absolutely makes me happy. Um, I'll give my stance on the Marvel movies, but that's not the point. I'm talking about the Mario movie, but obviously, this movie blows Disney movies out of the water. And, I'm glad. DreamWorks, Illumination, they need their time to shine. And it seems like they're really going to have their time to shine this year, which I'm really glad to see. But again, I don't want to have too high hopes. So, I should keep my expectations low like I did with this movie. But with all that said, this movie was pretty good. I'm not gonna be one of those people and say it's like the greatest film of all time. It's just a good movie. Especially, I mean, if you're a non-Mario fan, the movie's probably not do it for you. But if you at least grew up with the at least modern games, then you might get something out of it. For me, since I grew up with the game, seeing most of the references, they were pretty cool. So with that said, the movie's good. Um, that's about it.